Hello? My name is Alexander. I live in Ukraine, 16 miles from the front line, and I will tell you about the main military news from Ukraine for January 12th. British Prime Minister Sunak has already arrived in Kiev and announced new aid. Reuters. He said Britain is increasing its support to $3.19 billion, an increase of $255.2 million over the previous 2 years. This will include air defense equipment, long-range missiles, artillery ammunition and maritime security equipment. London also promises to supply the AFU with the most drones of any country. And most of them are expected to be manufactured in Britain itself. Ukraine and Britain sign historic agreement. Sky News. Sunak is to sign a security cooperation agreement that commits the UK to provide intelligence, cybersecurity, medical and military training, and defense industry cooperation. It will also announce £2.5 billion of military support for Ukraine next year. Hungary set to negotiate to lift veto on €50 billion of aid to Ukraine. Financial Times. The European Commission is ready to give Orban the right in 2025 to assess whether Ukraine needs the money and has met the requirements for EU aid. This should be enough for Orban to lift his already existing veto of €50 billion from the EU. Hungary is determined to negotiate, EU sources assure. Occupants do not control the situation at Zaporizhzhya NPP energy minister. According to him, the power plant equipment is gradually losing its functions. It is degrading. After the deoccupation, a lot of work will have to be done to bring at least one of the 6 power units back into operation. U.S. suspends aid to Ukraine until Congress acts. Statement from the White House. U.S. military assistance to Ukraine has been suspended until Congress approves new funding, National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby said. The assistance we provide to Ukraine has now been suspended, and the attacks carried out by the Russians are only intensifying. And it was said earlier this week that they are using North Korean ballistic missiles to do their dirty work. Kirby said during a briefing. Neither Ukraine nor Russia can conduct an offensive due to mining and active use of UAVs. Budanov. To suppress drones, we need modern means of electronic warfare, and for mine clearance, we need special equipment, the head of the DIU said in an interview with Le Monde. Half a kilometer of territory near Verbov has been recaptured by the Ukrainian armed forces from the occupiers. Mayor of Melitopol Fedorov. He noted that the Ukrainian defense forces are currently repelling enemy attacks in the Zaporizhzhya sector. Sunak shouted, "Glory to Ukraine!" in the Verkhovna Rada and said that it is not Ukraine that needs NATO, but NATO needs our country. More theses from Rishi Sunak's speech in the Verkhovna Rada. Putin must realize that no army can defeat free people, and that is why Ukraine must win. He has now reached the point where he should be humiliated to ask for weapons from Iran and North Korea. We have signed a new partnership that will build a new future for Ukraine. This is an unbreakable alliance. We will help you win the war. We have announced the largest military aid package ever. With a grant of £200 million, we will start producing drones both in Ukraine and abroad for you. Russians stopped the offensive near Kupiansk and partially went on the defense. Build analyst. According to Build journalist Julian Repke, since the end of December, Russian troops have stopped large-scale armored vehicle attacks on the village of Sinkivka, Kharkiv region. They were trying to take this village in order to advance on Kupiansk. For about 2 weeks now, only individual infantry units have been attacking there without the support of armored vehicles. At the same time, the Ukrainian armed forces managed to launch a partial counteroffensive and take some Russian positions near Kupiansk. In their attacks, Ukrainians are using heavy armored vehicles, such as Swedish SDRF-90 infantry fighting vehicles. They come within a few meters of the Russian trenches, which exerts not only firepower but also powerful psychological pressure on the enemy. Russia successfully circumvents sanctions with the help of several countries to produce weapons. Politico. Russian imports, which were sanctioned by the United States and its allies, amounted to almost $9 billion from January to October last year. This is only 10% less than before February 2022. According to Ukraine's estimates, in 2022, Russia's missile capacity was 50 missiles per month, doubling to 100 by mid-2023. Politico notes that the largest supplier of technology for Russian military goods is the American company Intel, followed by China's Huawei. The top 10 also includes American companies Analog Devices, AMD, Texas Instruments, IBM, and Dell. Most supplies now come from China, Hong Kong, Turkey, and the UAE. This day has already gone down in the history of our country. Today we have an agreement with the UK, a security agreement that we have been working on for a long time. Zelensky said in his evening address, "This is the first bilateral agreement that implements the basic agreement of the G7 on Ukraine's security, our protection, and our security growth." The situation at the front as of the end of the day on January 11, 2024. Hostile subversive groups became active in Chernihiv region. A civilian car was shot at as a result of infiltration by one of them. Svatov section. The enemy made another attempt to improve the tactical situation near Sinkivka and Terny. The situation has not changed. Active offensive actions of the Katsaps with the use of armored vehicles in Serebryansk forestry resumed. Bakhmut direction. The enemy resumed assault operations near Bodanivka and is trying to recapture the positions lost in the fall near Klishchiivka and Andrivka. Fighting continues. Avdiivka sector. The enemy has resumed its attempts to advance in Stepov. Today's attempts were unsuccessful. Katsaps lost 2 tanks and 90% of their attack aircraft. In Avdiivka, the enemy concentrated on an attack south of the pumping station. This maneuver makes it possible to envelop Avdiivka coke from the east and will provide variability in assault operations in the future. In recent days, the Katsaps have been very active in Pervomaisk. The enemy is attacking the northeastern outskirts of Yerhivka, but so far has managed to repel all attacks. A sanitary, gray zone, has been created south of Novomykhailivka to protect it from the Russian world. Tavria section. The Katsaps continue to climb into KY with their equipment, but it is successfully destroyed. The enemy is hunting for anything that can swim. Accordingly, in parallel with attempts to oust the defense forces from the bridgehead, attacks on our logistics continue. That was all the main military news from Ukraine. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with the latest military news from Ukraine. Goodbye.